Our first speaker that we're going to have is Joanna Bourke, who's the CEO of the Pacific Collaborative Futures. She's going to talk about the findings from one of the great reports that they do called the Pacific Perceptions Report. She's going to share a story about the Manaaki internship and the connection to the RSE space. And when Joanna's finished, we're going to hear from Senior Sergeant David Pulemangafa, who's from the Wellington, New Zealand Police here in Wellington, and he's going to talk about the interaction between the police and RSE workers and some of the strategies that are in place. So first, could we please welcome Joanna.
Works. Kia ora, maloe lelei, hello, nisan bula vinaka, hello olegeta, Māori and warm Pacific greetings to you all. Thank you to Horticulture New Zealand and the organisers for the opportunity to contribute to this session today. At Pacific Collaborative Futures, we help make Pacific New Zealand relationships visible, valued and stronger through research, storytelling and leadership pathways. Few organisations have the opportunity to work across public perceptions, Pacific voices, leadership development and employer partnerships. That vantage point provides unique insight into how Pacific New Zealand relationships are formed, strengthened and sustained. From that vantage point, we see RSE not simply as a workforce program, but as one of New Zealand's most significant people-to-people partnerships with the Pacific. Today, I want to explore three interconnected ideas. First, that public confidence is a strategic asset. Second, that storytelling is critical infrastructure for building understanding and trust. And third, that the enduring legacy of RSE is found in the relationships it creates. Before we talk about the future of RSE, we need to understand the wider Pacific New Zealand relationship. Our perceptions of New Zealanders of the Pacific research shows strong support, but limited understanding. 90% of New Zealanders support deeper ties with Pacific nations, and 82% value Pacific migrants. Yet, only 7% feel well informed about the Pacific, and less than half believe Pacific migrants are treated fairly. That's a gap, and that gap matters. This is the gap that we need to bridge. New Zealanders support stronger Pacific relationships, but many do not yet understand the lived experience, contribution, and human impact behind those relationships. For RSE, that creates both responsibility and opportunity to make the value of the scheme visible, credible, and understood. For PCF, this finding is significant because it highlights where our work can contribute. If understanding is limited, then research, storytelling, and relationship building become increasingly important. And the good news for this room is that you already sit at the centre of the answer. You are the people creating the lived experiences of RSE. The gap between support and understanding is strategic. If we do not bridge that gap, public confidence can weaken. If we do, social licence strengthens. If people see RSE as fair, beneficial and relationship focused, public confidence strengthens. If they see only isolated problems or incomplete stories, support becomes fragile. And that is why public confidence should be treated as a strategic asset and a foundation of social licence. Future-proofing RSE is not only about worker numbers or policy settings, it is about trust, transparency, worker experience, community confidence, and visible impact. And this is where our work sits. We see research and storytelling as complementary tools. We help understand public confidence through research and we help strengthen it through storytelling and connection. Storytelling helps make Pacific New Zealand relationships visible. Storytelling is how we bridge that gap. It turns support into understanding and understanding into trust. Our role at PCF is not simply to tell the stories, but our role is to make those relationships and the impacts visible. Our Voices of the Pacific series, produced in partnership with Horticulture New Zealand, demonstrates what happens when Pacific people tell their own stories. These stories help move the conversation from labour to people and from transactions to relationships. If public confidence depends on understanding, then storytelling is not marketing. It is strategic infrastructure. When I talk about storytelling, I'm not talking about promotion. I'm talking about making visible the relationships, families, and communities behind the scheme. Stories make visible what statistics cannot: workers, families, communities, skills, sacrifice, and long-term relationships. And through the Voices of the Pacific series, PCF has helped share the RSE worker experiences in their own words. That visibility builds trust, strengthens social license, and helps shift the conversation from transaction to relationship. RSE discussions often focus on economics, labour supply and productivity, and those things matter, but they are not the entire story. At its heart, RSE is a relationship platform connecting employers, workers, families, communities and countries. Its legacy is measured not only in crops harvested or shortages filled, but in trust, understanding and long-term Pacific New Zealand relationships. That is relationship capital, the value created when people live, work and learn alongside one another. The World Bank has described RSE as a triple win for workers, Pacific communities and employers, and I would add that its deeper value is the relationship capital it creates. PCF's work is grounded in the same belief. Strong relationships are built deliberately through shared experience, mutual benefit and trust. And the question for RSE is therefore not only how many workers are needed, but what kind of relationships the scheme is creating. The definition of success in RSE is evolving. 20 years ago, success may have been measured almost entirely by productivity, but today success is measured by productivity and people. Productivity, reliability and operational outcomes still matter, but they are no longer enough on their own. The conversation now includes fairness, dignity, respect, safety, well-being and opportunity. This matters because worker well-being and public confidence are directly connected. When workers are treated well and supported to thrive, trust grows between employers, workers, Pacific communities and New Zealand. And when the public believes workers are treated fairly, our social license strengthens. When it believes otherwise, confidence can erode quickly. For employers, this is both a responsibility and an opportunity. And the most successful employers will not simply attract workers, they will invest in people, belonging, and relationships. At PCF, we see relationship building in practice through our internship program. We're not simply facilitating placements. We are helping to build that next generation of Pacific New Zealand partnerships. The program connects Pacific scholars studying in New Zealand with employers that operate in similar industries to what they will return home to at the end of their studies. And for many, this will be back to horticulture, agricultural, primary industries. Internships turn education into experience and experience into confidence, networks and long-term connection. Scholars gain exposure, practical skills and professional confidence, and employers gain Pacific talent, cultural insight and relationships with our future Pacific leaders. This is people-to-people diplomacy in its practical form. and it shows how deliberate investment in people can build relationship capital that lasts beyond a single placement. I need to play this video. I need to play the video. Oh, hang on, how do I go back? Oh, yeah, here we go. Yep.
Talofa, my name is Kalita Tsitsihomasi. I'm studying a Bachelor's of Biomedical Science, majoring in molecular pharmacology and medicinal chemistry. I did my internship in Blenheim at Horticulture Limited. So for my internship, I did a project on waste minimization, specifically on designing a culturally appropriate waste minimization plan that the Hortis company can implement in their village, with the hopes of extending the same plan or the whatever the procedure that they're going to be doing to other companies around Blenheim and New Zealand as a nation. So I think what's really special about that project was being first of all a student, and coming from a minority, you know, as a Pacifica, it's really rare to get you know, a seat where you can actually plan something for people to follow, especially your people.
In our village, we have a 462-bed village in Marlborough. That waste is significant, and there have been many opportunities in the past to try and reduce that by using very sort of linear approaches, and so we made the decision to go back to first principles to really understand what our problem was, and we partnered with a not-for-profit to undertake a waste audit for us. So what we were able to determine was that 60% of our waste was food waste, and at about the time we had discovered this, we were approached by PCF and introduced to Kalita, who was looking for a sustainability project, and we thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity. So Kalita dove into the waste project. But what initially started as trying to develop a culturally appropriate waste minimisation plan kind of turned into a population health, nutrition, productivity project. So and I think the value that you added, or the insight that you're continuing to add, has just added a dimension that we wouldn't have otherwise seen. So we're exceptionally grateful that you were able to offer that insight and embed yourself with our Tuvalu team and really understand what's going on, what's going to work and what's not going to work. Because the solutions that are in front of us are actually really simple.
This example brings a relationship message to life. When people work together, they build relationships and create long-term value for everyone involved. As I close, I want to highlight this question: what legacy will RSE create for the next generation? RSE has created employment, strengthened industries, supported Pacific development, and brought people together. Its next chapter must be about more than workforce settings. It must be about relationships, belonging, well-being, trust, and visible impact. The research shows New Zealanders want stronger relationships with the Pacific, and the RSE scheme is where those relationships become real. Pacific Collaborative Futures is committed to ensuring those relationships are not only created, but understood, valued, and strengthened through research, storytelling, and leadership pathways. As RSE approaches its 20th anniversary, perhaps the question isn't simply whether the scheme works. The evidence suggests it does. The real question is, what kind of Pacific New Zealand relationship do we want to create over the next 20 years? Because years from now, people may not remember the season's production figures, they will remember the opportunities, the trust, and the relationships that were built. If we get well-being right, and if we invest in partnerships, and if we continue to build that public confidence, the future of RSE will be very strong indeed. So the challenge I want to leave here today is this. If RSE is one of New Zealand's most significant relationships with the Pacific, what kind of Pacific New Zealand relationship do we want RSE to create over the next 20 years? Malawa pito and tua whātu.